Thank you all for joining us today. I'm so excited about this talk. Hey Wendy, how you doing? So what we this is, for those of you who are unfamiliar, this is the next installment of our Impact Series, and this is kind of a safe space within the DoinGud ecosystem where we can just get deep about impact and really dig into an impact topic. And it just so happens that today we are going to be talking about climate action, the 13th SDG from the United Nations. And this is kind of coinciding with what's going on with the 26th United Nations climate event, climate conference. Is the COP26. So for those of you that aren't familiar, the way that this usually works is we just kind of have a huge discussion. I'm kind of here to kind of make sure that we always have something to talk about, but please just jump in with any and all questions or issues or burning rages that you have about the climate change space as a whole. And if not, I'm going to start throwing questions at you. But yeah, welcome again, and please, whoever wants to go first, go for it. Anyone?
Well, I'll go ahead and kick it off. Just because with, as you said, the COP21 going on, and I was actually in Florida all of last week at a what's called a Blue Tech conference. So Blue Tech is the space for startups that somehow relate to the ocean. And I was telling Rebecca about this, that there's a real sense of urgency now. We thought there was before, but now there's a real sense of urgency. They were saying the city of Miami might be half underwater in 12 years, 12 to 13 years. That's a big deal. That's 6 million people that won't have a home. So, it's inspiring to see all these young people doing all these different technologies that reduce plastic waste in the ocean, reduce greenhouse gases, attach battery storage units to big shipping containers so they don't have to emit diesel fuels while they're docked or moving. So it's exciting, but then we watched, the event in COP where those world leaders get together and essentially do nothing. There, I said it. You can cancel me, but that's how I feel. Um, it's very frustrating that there isn't more um, aggressive action by governments to mitigate dangers.
It really is. And thank you for sharing that with us. Those are some quite frightening statistics. And in honesty, I wish that was one of the only frightening statistics out there. Welcome, Joseph. Hey, how you doing? Those of you that don't know Joseph's from the Blockchain for Climate social impact organization. We were just chatting about Ryan was just kicking us off with the sort of quite scary statistics about the climate change space as it stands. What I kind of wanted to ask, specifically to Joseph, but to sort of anyone, to be honest, what have you found to be quite helpful? Because obviously in your work you do quite a lot of advocacy. You could talk a little bit about that to kind of explain give people context about what your organization does. But what have you found to be a helpful way of getting climate on like a political agenda or a personal agenda? Like how does that work and what does that look like? And is that really, really as hard as it sounds? Oh, you're no sound. So sorry. No worries.
I would love it if we could all go around and introduce ourselves, describe what organizations we're a part of and how they relate to the climate. And since I know the suggestion, I'll go first. My name's Alexa.
Sure.
My name's Alexa, and I'm a member of Trees for the Future. We are a nonprofit that is training farmers in sustainable agricultural practices. And basically we teach them how to plant trees on their land, revitalize their land that was before very arid or degraded. And those forest gardens that they plant and create can help them to increase their income, have more constant access to food, so it increases food security, and it also helps to sequester carbon and repair land which is obviously an incredibly important part of SDG 13, climate action. And so I'm here because we were one of the first environmental nonprofits to accept cryptocurrency. And so we've been able to plant over 2 million trees with cryptocurrency in the past year and a half. And there's a lot of things that are very daunting and very scary about climate change. Coming as a millennial, I can also say, it's very, very daunting and a lot of anxiety that comes with it. But I think there's also a lot of inspiration that comes from, being able to take action in your own life and being able to inspire others to do the same. And so cryptocurrency and the power that crypto holders have had recently has been very inspiring, seeing how people want to support initiatives to help protect the planet.
That's awesome. Can you hear me now?
We can.
It always wants to push me to push to talk. That's super inspiring that you guys have planted 2 million trees on the back of crypto donations. That's epic. And I think DoinGud is really putting itself in this like pinch point for answering the question, can crypto donations be, can philanthropic, direct donation type stuff actually move the bar? Can we scale this to, crazy level or the level needed to, to take a real dent out of the issue? And I think of all the folks that I've seen working on this, I think DoinGud is got a really amazing chance to do so. And it's been kind of neat to watch it grow and be making that impact. Really exciting to see the Ocean Drop announcement recently, and that's an exciting follow-on to Earth Drop. As mentioned, I come from the carbon market. I've been developing carbon offset projects for the last 17 years. From early in the Kyoto Clean Development Mechanism through voluntary carbon markets. I'm based in Vancouver, Canada. Our province has a compliance carbon market here. And through the whole, period, I found that carbon offset development, both the specific on-the-ground projects and then creating the methodologies and standards that enable those, are an incredible type of direct action where I can get up every day and work on provably getting and keeping carbon out of the atmosphere, either from my own projects when, the business cycle allows for that, or for improving the tools that we have to do that when the cycle is somewhere else. And so for people who, who have climate grief or climate anxiety, fairly well recognized that being able to do something about it is the way through that. And so, that getting out and planting trees is amazing. Building mechanisms like DoinGud is to pool that finance, do that is amazing. And I found that developing projects is really great because we can click that into stuff like the UN climate process or banks and businesses, environmental social governance goals, or things like KlimaDAO's, purchase of more than 8 million tons of carbon offsets and creation of $750 million market cap in a week. That's really being unlocked by stuff right now. And just while I've got the mic, I want to speak in defense of the COP process and the UNFCCC and the stuff at the UN. I see the narrative of pointing out that the strangeness is about the process, and the process is of course very strange, and in a vacuum of other more built for purpose type venues, everybody puts all their climate hopes on the UN COP, and it's a very specific mechanism. It's the venue for all the countries of the world to get together in one spot every year to try to negotiate around the work stream that goes on all year for what is the international consensus on addressing climate change. And you can imagine it's hard to decide where to go for dinner with a friend or where to order out during COVID. Imagine every single country of the world with our vastly differing understandings of our national interest and parties that flip from time to time. So imagine a right wing from a left wing party scattered out around 196 countries. The fact that anything gets done at all is always a miracle to me. But it is a specific venue for that type of work to happen. And so I'm very proud of it. I'm not going this year. I've been 6 times previously. I have an amazing colleague, Denby, who's going for end of this week and next week. To do some things, including launch our Bitmo platform. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of the process. And our Bitmo platform, we just put out a press release. I'll drop it. I don't know if I'll drop it on the channel, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're announcing our launch of a platform to enable national governments to issue and exchange their Article 6 Paris Agreement carbon credits. We're hoping that the countries will come to agreement on Article 6 next week. It's 5 years after Paris, and they're still trying to seal the deal on that one. But what that allows is pathways to invest in emission reduction outcomes anywhere they can be achieved in the world, and have capital flow from where it exists and demand where it's being created by national governments or other parties saying we need to reduce emissions, and have that efficiently flow to all the places around the world where it can get the carbon out of the atmosphere, and then create the other social and environmental co-benefits that come with decarbonizing your economy, protecting your forests, restoring your landscapes. So we're live on Ethereum now, and sort of launching that Monday. It's specifically a tool for national governments, so it's kind of quirky in its launch that we're still convincing national governments to get on board, and hopeful as it does that it'll make some real impact. Thanks so much.
That's amazing, Joseph. Thank you for it. Right. Do you have a rebuttal there? You basically just called out.
No, not really. From my perspective, I still stand firm that the process frustrates me. I just wish, rather than have lots of countries get together, like he said, I totally agree. Where do you choose to go to dinner? It's how can that many people make a decision? Rather, there's more. I would prefer that there be more cluster organizations, say Canada and the U.S. get together to propose solutions for what is affecting their economy. Brazil and Uruguay get together, just kind of have smaller geographic specific communities that find solutions. But that's just me. Obviously, Joseph knows a lot more than I do about that organization. I'm Ryan. I'm an attorney. Maybe that's what makes me more negative feeling about things. I'm based in Los Angeles. I do specialize in cryptocurrency law, and I'm on a nonprofit called Bridge Cities Alliance in my local community to raise awareness of LGBT issues, and help with suicide prevention of youth in Los Angeles, and homeless LGBT youth. I've been a part of DoinGud now for a year, I want to say, and very, very happy to be a part of an amazing venture.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Who's going to go next? We'll keep going with the introductions, and then we'll go back to questions. Who wants to go next with introductions?
I think you do.
I don't think I do. I think Wendy does. Wendy,
sure.
After you.
I'm part of DoinGud, and am part of the team along with Rebecca and little tiny bits of other people that we can grab, like a little piece of Michaela, a little piece of Sanchit, whoever we can grab, to help build our directory and members and users from the nonprofit space, so that every nonprofit can benefit from the sale of each and every NFT on DoinGud. So I work with this team to build those relationships and help organizations, nonprofits. Alexa, it'd be very easy for you to understand the value of crypto in this context. And then we usher in, we sort of hold hands to get folks into the DoinGud ecosystem with a very simple application. I live in London and grew up in New York, Boston, Chicago, and San Francisco. Grew up. Seems like a lot of places. I don't have a favorite SDG per se. I love them all dearly, equally. And I'm I can't imagine another approach. Doesn't mean anything that I can't, but I can't imagine another approach for this climate effort. It doesn't mean there aren't thousands that could be effective. I just can't see, particularly with COVID, given the limitations on the number of people that can be there in order to demonstrate so some of the energy that gets people going, Ryan, I think you're right, is missing there because of limitations from COVID and limitations of funds and people who can't afford to be there. And I think in part it's a what's the word, like a banner event. It's a billboard event for stuff that takes place during the other 352 days a year. The one challenge this year is there's some progress, deforestation, and a couple others, but I'm a little bummed out that the momentum will be maybe lower. The curve will be a little bit lower because there isn't the opportunity for folks to demonstrate to the scale that most other COPs have allowed for.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, I don't know what to do other than agree with you, to be honest. I think, yeah, especially with COVID, it simultaneously, especially, I don't know if this was kind of this sort of same feeling everywhere, but especially with COVID for me, around where we are, because there's so many cars and stuff off the road, we saw huge, and people were walking everywhere and cycling everywhere. We saw a huge increase in biodiversity and just general health of nature. And it was quite difficult then, obviously, when COVID starts coming back into, obviously COVID created a lot of problems, but COVID also highlighted a lot of issues with the way we go about things as well. So I think in every sort of sense, I think this has been quite a difficult time. Mickey, would you like to introduce yourself? If you can. If you can unmute, tell me.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. My name is Micaela. I'm also part of the DoinGud fam. But my work is mainly located in the creative side with the creators and the artists. I like to say that my work partially is creating experiences and making people happy, because I focus a lot on creating creative spaces for creators to meet, to collaborate, and to join other like-minded people that want to create impact with their work. I also kind of show up every time I can into the social impact side of it, because I want to generate impact with my work throughout my life, and that's mainly my main goal, let's say. And that's why I feel like this particular place, with these opportunities that we have in hand and with everything that we're building, is the right place to do it. We are opening opportunities not only to people that generate impact culturally with their art, but also people that generate impact for everyone into different areas. So that's why I'm also very grateful for all of you that have your hands on working and supporting different causes. So thank you very much for doing that. And we really appreciate all your work. Regarding SDG 13, which is one of my favorites, if like you said, Wendy, they're all my favorites. I think that I come from Ecuador originally, and where I come from, we have a dear connection with nature because we have it so close. all the time. So it's very dear to me to try to live as sustainably as possible within the possibilities that I have, of course. But also to meet people that want to do that as well. So that's why I'm here and here to listen to all of you. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay,
That was
was that
beautiful.
okay, Rebel?
That was honestly beautiful. I loved it. Welcome to those of you that are just joining us. We're talking about climate action today. We're just going around doing introductions. So those of you that haven't had the chance to introduce yourselves, please do so. Unmute, talk to us, tell us who you are, who you're with, if you're with an organisation. If not, why do you love the climate? If you don't love the climate, then I guess that's a hot take that you can also do as well. Like that's absolutely fine. You know, Ryan's out here doing hot takes. I think everyone else can as well. If not, I'm going to start nominating. So, Further Fox, can you hear me in mute?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Will, and I'm based in Nashville, and I am not associated with an organization currently. My background has been in filmmaking and sort of the creative space, leading into marketing with sort of a digital focus. And I came to the Doing Good community and have continued to sort of track along with its development, having been really inspired by its mission and seeing it as a wonderful opportunity for a re-engagement from my perspective with creators and towards a goal of coordinating and unlocking a shared value and sort of impact with nonprofit organizations, and seeing a new era of patronage in a reciprocal kind of way that, yeah, to your point around supporting both our artistic culture as well as our social impact and environmental impact, cultural sort of revivalism, which needs to happen. And have just been really, really excited by all of the developments, and admittedly am ignorant in so many different ways, and appreciate the opportunity to be a part of these kind of conversations and learn and identify ways to contribute.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Will. That was amazing. Okay, who's next? Again, don't make me threaten to call on you, because I will. I'll do it. D-Bomb, IX Shells, is it Lawpack? Sanchit, come on Sanchit, I know you could unmute. Laura?
Yep. You can hear me guys, right?
Yeah, we can.
Awesome.
Great intro.
Give me a sec. I'll open the camera.
No.
So yeah, hi guys, I'm Sanchit, part of the Doing Good family too. Yeah, I've been like might be the youngest person in the team. Like I'm like learning along the way since like the last 2 years, learning like how different things work with different cultures and stuff, which been a journey for me. And I come from like India, so a lot of population here, so we have to think about it. There's like not many like environmental things going on here, like so yeah, so it's kind of a necessity for me to think of, to like go ahead and how to like save the environment, or like how to like protect it, right? So that's one of the, let's say, personal benefit that Doing Good provides me. I might be biased in that, but yeah, so that's why I'm super excited with this stuff, like how can like crypto and all of these like different placeholders and stakeholders can combine like together, meet at a single place and like help the world, because right now we have lost kind of a trust in like the governments and the regulators, and now it's our chance for the people to like the community to grow together and bring up the what was needed and what has been not working since the last decade, I can see. So yeah, so that's why, and a brief intro of me. So yeah, cheers.
Amazing Sanchit, well done. I loved it. And last but not least, if you can unmute, is it IX Shells? I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but feel free to unmute if you can and introduce yourself.
especially as an environmental nonprofit, is, well, isn't cryptocurrency bad for the environment? And I think that there's such a stigma and this, there's a misunderstanding in the conversation about how cryptocurrency impacts the environment. So I would love to just, talk a little bit more about that, and how doing good is working to address that.
Amazing. Oh, great questions. I love that. And also, just before we do that, just before we dive into those amazing questions, Alexa, thank you so much for posing them. IHLs, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? I can see your camera now. Thanks, so amazing. If you can you unmute? We can't hear you, unfortunately. I know, me too.
If you're on,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Discord is always I never use Discord, to be honest, but yeah, Michaela invited me, and really glad to be here. My name is Itzel, but people knows me as IXLs, and I am a generative artist. I work with code and create abstract patterns and abstract art, basically. And I'm also co-founder of Creative Code Art on Instagram, which is a page that shares different generative artworks. I've been doing this for 4 years, and yeah, I just do a little bit of everything, to be honest. I also became part of the foundation team when they started. Now I'm not so active. But yeah, I created a curated world where I share artists' artworks and I help them sell for a few months, and I'm hoping to go back to that soon. Yeah, that's me.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for risking Discord for us. It's much appreciated.
It's okay. I need to go from it, but it's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so back to Alexa's thing. Alexa's questions about the intersections between cryptocurrency and the climate. You, correct me if I'm misrepresenting your question, Alexa. But it's essentially that about like how those two interplay and how doing good is addressing the crossover there and helping alleviate that as well. Who wants to take that? Wendy, you go jump in.
Sancha, do you want to start with some stuff and I'll follow you, or shall I start and you go?
Can you repeat what's the question again?
Yeah, how I heard Alexa's question is, how is doing good shorthand dealing with the topic of, okay, so you take cryptocurrency, but you're doing NFTs for good, or for the future is also doing NFTs for good, or doing crypto for good, but how can you do crypto for good if it damages the environment? Does it damage the environment? What's doing good doing about that part?
Oh, for sure. I don't want to go too much technical, but I have researched how what the environmental cost is to maintain NFT towards to the kilojoules level. So with the technology that we are using, we are using a different chain. We are not using Ethereum, so that cost is 1,000 times lesser than when you compare to async, OpenSea, Nonu region, and that. So that's one of the main plus point why NFTs on DoinGud are much more sustainable as compared to any other platform. So that's on the tech side. Other than towards that's just that's what I heard from ETH Lisbon. So if you want to buy an NFT, right? So if it helps you doing good, why would not you? But why would not you buy when it helps to doing good, right? To support our organization rather than just buying an NFT. So yeah, so it has a perk. So and the technical part is that's the main attraction right now, because most of the folks that are that are not into tech stuff, they don't understand the tech part, the chains and this stuff. So that's we need to educate. So that's what this call is for. So yeah.
Can I follow up on what Sanchit said?
Please go.
Yeah, so I think, Sanchit, you brought up what is a really important point, and it is deeply technical for folks who are not, as you know, Alexa, or not in the space. This difference between proof of work versus proof of stake is the place we start. Then we talk about Polygon, which is the sort of second wave of how we're trying to address it. I'd say the third one can be that we don't, at DoinGud, we encourage, we allow artists to mint only at the point of sale. So there isn't a ton of minting and cash out of the pocket and consumption of energy for stuff that may never sell. So we do lazy minting, which means we creators only mint at the point of sale. And I think we're going down the list in terms of actual hits. So the first thing that which Sanchit mentioned is the biggest hit, is the biggest benefit. And then the next thing we're doing is encouraging creators to be responsible with their carbon footprint. And we're going to have some opportunities on the website itself, inside the marketplace, to allow creators to, basically with one click, allow them to offset carbon consumption. But the biggest ones are those first few. Is that the same stuff you would be saying to folks, Lexa?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I know that it's definitely a very technical question. We accept most of our cryptocurrency donations through the Giving block, and they've given us the same advice. And one of the reasons, that we accept cryptocurrency donations is because we recognize that there is an interest in helping the environment through cryptocurrency, and that not all blockchains or not all tokens, and I apologize if I'm not using the right terminology, are negatively impacting the environment as much as people might be saying. Especially if we compare the environmental impact of other financial institutions to cryptocurrency, then it's, an unfair conversation. It's unfair for people to be saying that cryptocurrency is having as much of an environmental impact as it is. Obviously, everything that we do has an environmental impact. From being on this call, deciding whether or not we want to turn the heat on if it's getting too cold outside right now. Every decision that we make has an environmental impact, and I think that's why it's so brilliant about DoinGud, is that it's giving people who want to make a positive impact the ability to. It's giving them the space to find the resources and the organizations that they can work with to help make a positive impact, especially on the environment. And so, I know that there's so many other positive impacts that cryptocurrency can and will have on society. So I try to frame it to our donors as, if you're interested in making a positive impact on the environment, definitely use your cryptocurrency to do that by providing a donation or being more mindful of the blockchain or platform that you're using. And again, I'm really not technical about this, but that's
it's better.
I'd
not technical.
To weigh in as well. So as a carbon guy using blockchain to address climate change directly, the question has come up, and it was interesting when we started our work on the Bitmo platform. We always, which was like back in 2017, we figured that proof of stake and the merge would already be here, so that Ethereum would have already transitioned to proof of stake. And so we didn't really have to answer the question, like before we actually got going. So we didn't need to answer that question. As proof of stake got delayed and our project has progressed, we have gotten more of that question. And then it really kind of came up this spring in February as a big, thing in the discussion, and people were flaming artists and saying that they're evil and boiling the oceans for trying to make their art. And unshackle the bonds of traditional art industry. We welcomed our second son about like a week before this really started blowing up, and I was trying to take some time off, and I'm like, heck, I founded Blockchain for Climate Foundation, so I got to weigh in. So I did some research around the topic and wrote a bit about it, and then got a lot of traction around that. But fundamentally, I kind of broke it down into three things. When you're engaging with the question about the climate impact of crypto, or Bitcoin in specific, or NFTs. And one is quantify the impact. So that's one thing that we can do when we're trying to figure out what platform do we want to use. Do we want to use Ethereum, Bitcoin? Do we want to put our NFTs somewhere else? Is you can actually do some ballpark work to figure out your impact. There's also stuff like climate.fyi, put out by Offsetra, that allows you to plug in your Ethereum address and figure out its carbon footprint, or your contract, so you can put in your token contract and figure out how much emissions have people emitted interacting with our token or with our NFT minter or something like that. So that's, in a short order, that kind of solved that issue, so you can figure that out. The next step, and this is sort of like carbon accounting, climate action 101, is reduce your impact where possible. And so we have an opportunity to reduce our impacts by using a lower carbon chain if we wanted to, by trying to manifest and design our interaction with Ethereum, if we're on Ethereum, to do it in a lower carbon way, and have fewer transactions or lower gas transactions. Another thing that falls under reduce the impact or reduce emissions is the shift to proof of stake. So it does keep getting sort of pushed back, but they're saying now probably middle of next year. They already have the beacon chain running, so it really is showing progress. And at some point next year, you can be pretty sure that Ethereum won't have a carbon footprint, or a very, very small one. And then finally, there's offset the rest. And so, when you do know your carbon impact, when you sort of lock that in, you can use the tools to figure it out, and then you can offset the rest. And so you can use existing sort of internet-based carbon offsetting stuff, Web 2 offsetting platforms. We now have really neat Web 3 stuff coming online. The Toucan protocol, which is creating the NFT offsets for KlimaDAO. You can buy offsets that have been tokenized by them. We may or may not have a platform coming out shortly that also allows you to do tokenized offset NFTs. And sort of buy and use those in a way that's more human readable. And then there's lots of other people selling stuff in sort of a Web 2, Web 3 hybrid, so you can offset the rest. So this is kind of the arc. And then as I was talking about this and like getting to be on the news and the New York Times and stuff, I got to talk to more like crypto luminaries like Nick, who had founded ENS domains, and then even Nick Carter of like Tungsten Cube fame, to understand the mechanism more. And what they clarified is that if I was to go to issue an NFT and use gas and people were to buy it, I could be seen to be responsible for those emissions as part of the Ethereum blockchain, but my doing that actually doesn't increase emissions of the Ethereum blockchain, because the Ethereum blockchain is always running at full capacity right now. All of the blocks are always full, and gas price will raise and lower in order to make that defines which transactions get executed and which ones don't. But quite literally, if I didn't do that NFT, somebody else would fill that space. And so there is no direct increase in emissions from your Ethereum NFT. There is a small indirect amount if you're really driving gas costs up, because that makes it profitable for more miners to put more hardware, doing the transactions, burning electricity, but it's indirect. And so it's an important, definitely technical and geeky component of this question, and kind of important in the discussion, because your NFT doesn't cause more emissions. It just means that you have the opportunity to be responsible for a bigger portion of the existing Ethereum emissions. And always happy to go toe to toe with people, or share my insights if that's ever coming up for your organization, and you're getting questioned on it, because it's it's a middle ground. It's not, hey, there's no problem, or oh my God, we're boiling the oceans. It's somewhere in the middle, like so many things in life. And we do better when we can clarify that for folks. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that. It's really, really interesting. And like you say, it's one of those things where I think when climate issues come up around something like this, especially in emerging technology, there is so much misinformation, and not just misinformation, but a lot of information that people can't necessarily break down into understandable chunks. So it's really, really useful for you to be able to verbalize that in a way that actually doesn't make my brain explode. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Do you know what I mean? If you need me to ever, if you need a quote from me ever, I'm here. Do you know what I mean? I'm here 24/7. Yes, amazing. Honestly, amazing. I loved that. Did that kind of answer your question, Alexa? Was there any sort of other part of that you wanted to talk a little bit more?
No, I greatly appreciated that answer. Thank you so much. I would love to talk about that more. I just think that that's like such an interesting intersection between cryptocurrency and the environment, and just something that I come across so often. So I'm glad to have more understanding from the technical side and the tools and understanding now to be able to respond in a way like you said, there is never going to be a perfect answer to this question, and no one's going to be completely satisfied. But I know that the industry is doing more to continue to try to move down a pathway towards more mindful energy use. I've even been doing research, and I've seen that mining's been done more often in Iceland or in Canada, where it's colder and it's easier to make sure that the again, I'm not completely aware, but the fans and everything that needs to be to cool the computers are not using as much energy and things like that. So I know there's always like a trend towards more mindful energy consumption, and considering this is such a global experience, considering cryptocurrency is used by people around the world, I think it's really interesting how those innovations come up in different places.
Yeah, it really, really is. And I think, when you can kind of talk about this a little bit more, but we were doing, we did a conference a little while back on explaining sort of blockchain, crypto, NFTs to the people in the nonprofit sector. And we actually came across a lot of different resources, and some of them were from the UN on the sort of the opportunities presented by blockchain in and of itself, which I think is really, really interesting. And they were sort of explaining it in ways, they sort of broke it down into, I can send, if I can find the resource, I'll send it along, because I thought it was a really interesting read, but they basically showed ways in which they foresee basically blockchain being able to alleviate a lot of different concerns within the climate space, whether that be more transparent energy transactions, or regulating carbon markets and all this types of stuff. I thought it was really, really interesting. So I'll send that along if that be of interest to you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I'll drop it into the event chat after this if I can find it in all my tabs. But yeah, thank you so much for that. Is there anything else what people wanted to talk about? Pressing questions, issues, anything you wanted to hassle Joseph about, get him to explain some more about blockchain technology, anything? I realise we have some new joiners in the meantime. Archer Studio Co-ed, how are you doing? Want to unmute and say hi?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm really stoked about this. I just went last night to this NFT meetup that Cody was running, and he said that I should introduce myself in here, and I'm just really excited. I'm just learning and immersing myself in the community and wanting to, I'm a photographer and filmmaker, and kind of excited to take this leap, and your community just seems like it's exactly the place for me to be. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we just to kind of catch you up. I don't know how much you came in, but basically we're talking about climate action today. So if you have any, I don't know how that sort of has come up in your artistic experience, but if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, we've got a lot of people in the room today that come from climate action SIOs. So if there's anything within that realm that you have questions about or things you want to bring up, then feel free to do so. It's kind of just like an open forum discussion. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry I missed the beginning part of it actually, so I may have missed some really crucial things. But yeah, where I'm at is I'm learning about like I'm a part of this organization as well called Green the Bid, which is trying to bring sustainability and zero waste into production. And you know, as have been just on my NFT journey, I've just been sort of trying to sort through who in the space is really pushing that needle forward, because I do believe this is the next space for artists to really. I mean, it is like artists can soar. It's just so exciting and liberating. But with that, it's just a crucial part of the conversation. So I'm just kind of trying to learn what everything you're doing so that I can kind of also bring maybe even just my resources of Green the Bid in the conversation as well, just from filmmaking, commercial production, because I have a feeling it's NFTs are gonna become immersed in the branded space as well without even really knowing where it's gonna go yet. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
That's really, really interesting. I'll look them up. Did you say Green the Bid?
Yeah, Green the Bid. Yeah, they actually had their 1 year anniversary, and they've just been hustling. Really, it's really exciting. For the last year, they've been gathering resources, creating a roadmap, and there's about I think it's like an 8-person board, and Gabby Kay is the one that sort of I was first connected to, and then I just completely was like, anything I can do, I want to be a part of this. So then we started the ambassador program, and yeah, we've just been trying to look for how to. It's kind of similar to Add Green in the UK, and how to calculate our carbon footprints with the creation process that is linked to advertising and just making agencies and brands more responsible. And that's kind of the world that I have come from, but I'm sort of ducking down and kind of entering and just speaking to myself more as a fine artist, which I'm really excited about this new chapter for me. But I have that kind of audience and resources that I want to like immerse into this space in the right way, because this always immediately comes up about the energy grid is going to be so overwhelmed by the amount of mining that's going to be happening in the next year that it's going to be inevitable that I almost think crypto is going to force the revolution of sustainability, even though it's going to force it to happen, because otherwise, it can't go on. But I'm sorry if I'm getting off topic.
No, it's horrendously on topic. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting background to come from. I'm just looking at the Green the Bid sign up. That's honestly really interesting, and thank you so much for joining us today. That's super cool.
For sure.
That's amazing.
I don't think it's only gonna force the revolution. I think it's gonna fund it. I was talking to
exactly.
our blocks team, and they're always like funding projects and giving a ton of money to fundraisers. And I was thinking, like, what a better way to create a continuous fund than using generative art to just like keep giving and giving and giving to that specific cause without having to wait for government to give the necessary funds to create a project that can actually change an entire community that's suffering from climate change. For example, in my country, there's a whole community called Gunayala or San Blas, which is comprised almost 300 islands that are disappearing slowly due to erosion and climate change. And these are native people. They have their own form of government. So moving back to inland will be really hard for them. It could change everything, of course, and they need money to adapt, to create a city, or they need a city actually to allocate all these people. So if crypto and NFT don't fund that, I don't think government will. I'm glad you touched that subject. I think it's important and it's something that I care about.
That is shocking. Where is it? Sorry, I missed where you said you were based. Where is it that you are based?
I'm in Panama. Well, right now I'm not in Panama. I'm in London, but I I lived and grew up in Panama, and San Blas is like one of the many parts of it that where native people live, and we also have another province called Colón, which is mostly African American, and it's very gentrified. Like it's abandoned by the government. The government only focuses on the capital city, Panama, where I live, and it's just a mess. I was talking to some of my friends, and they were thinking on creating a DAO to replace parts of the government. And I even came up with a proposal for a Pleaser DAO, which is like the DAO I participate the most, so they can allocate funds and like bring things like ETH Panama, like the ETH Lisbon and ETH Barcelona, but in Panama, so companies pay attention to what's happening there, and then therefore Guatemala and Colombia and my neighbors. So yeah, it's just I think it's the revolution, and we're part of it.
Yeah, and that's amazing, and it's so, even it sounds even crazy when you say it, but like I think that's the power of crypto almost, is like that subversion and being able to and support communities in a way that's sort of outside of the normal system that we have. I think that's really interesting. I'd love to I'd love to talk more about that, because that's incredibly interesting. And like you say, I think it's simultaneously horrendously distressing that that's going on as well. So yeah, amazing, and distressed. I don't know what to say, to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty scary to be in the hands of people that really don't care. They only care about filling their pockets and the now. There's people out there that care about 10 years, 20 years from now, and that cares about. I care about like having kids in the future and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I mean it's just really scary to be in the hands of people so greedy that never cared. And now we're like different, and we're living in a different timeline where everyone's just like want to really support each other and give. It's different.
Yeah. I think that kind of leads me to a wider question then that I had, I suppose, coming into this, is that what do we, as a, this kind of to everyone, does anyone have any sense of whether, like, how do you think it's going, like, any sort of drive towards real and revolutionary climate action is going to happen? Can it exist outside of governmental spheres, or does it have to be, do you think it's going to have to be a sense of that governments are going to have to decide to collaborate very effectively and efficiently to come together to sort the climate? Or do you think that mechanisms such as crypto alone can create those spaces outside of the governmental spheres? What's your guys' senses on that? I know obviously that's a huge question, but
comment that I would make there is it's going to be a combination. It's a wicked problem and of deep complexity, and it's going to require both top-down action as well as the bottom-up. And I think the opportunity that we all see and the commitment that we all have to continuing to sort of realize that opportunity is the bottom-up impact.
Very much so. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that? Bottom up or top down, or both? Or one before the other?
I like where people can create mechanisms, and wherever we can find that. So the voluntary offset market has evolved that at the voluntary level. Some national governments and subnational governments have done it. We're hoping for the UN to agree on it on Article 6. I think there's a really interesting interplay, and I think that the metaphor kind of carries where they can set up mechanisms and have those be operated by the people. we have a really strong opportunity there, and that's not just centralized in government ones, but where they can and where they can require that others, like emitters in society have to reduce their emissions in some path. I think we get a really sweet 1-2 punch of like responsibility and authority where it, is wielded for good or for ill, but then actually giving tools to people to go solve the problem with and be innovative and creative with. And so that's why I feel really strongly, I'm stoked about what they're doing at the UN level, but the part I'm most interested in actually is giving tools to allow people to go make investments everywhere around the world, and a lot of it will be in quote unquote developing countries where there's opportunities to make emission reductions, to make lives better with renewable energy or restoration or improved forest management. So I think that amalgam, that mix of both, is really powerful, and it puts the responsibilities where they can be, well and elegantly carried.
Very much so. Did you have something you wanted to say? I think Shells, you were going to say something before, I think. Did you ever thought about that top down, bottom up, both, neither?
Okay, yeah, I just want to say that, I think crypto moves really fast as we've experienced. And that's a good side of it, in terms of like creating projects that can actually create impact right away, instead of just like, doing all these protocols and yearly events that only generates income for like a few organizations, but it doesn't really like change anything. And climate keeps changing really fast. Actually, we need to act as fast as possible. So I think crypto can really create the mechanisms to do that, of just like, the typical blah 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 and waste of time that governments like love to do because it creates income for them. But another thing I wanted to say is that you mentioned the bottom and ups. I'm not sure what you meant with that.
I guess like we were just talking about, in the sense of, I think it's quite, from my perspective, what I find interesting about crypto is that subversion, and the fact of like people can be very, very empowered in a decentralized system with no sort of interference from typical, traditional systems such as government. So I suppose I was asking, with the climate change crisis, do we think that it's going to have to be a top down, in the sense of like, do governments have to come together to create that change and force the change downwards, so that we and the bottom level then feel the effect of that climate change, not climate change, but as in our change towards our attitudes towards climate? Or can crypto or other mechanisms unite people at the bottom to force change up the top, if that kind of makes sense?
Well, yeah, so like it's happening already. I think banks are already, for example, I was reading on how Wall Street was like, trying to break crypto, but now they're trying to adapt to it. And I see it often. Like, I've gotten so many emails from brands trying to work with me right now, brands that never really care about anything, right? About artists, especially, only about making money. And now you see them, like, they're desperate. And it's the same with climate change. Like, if we really create a viral, just, let's say we create a viral mechanism that can push things towards change, just like we have pushed the economy to change towards artists. I think that will help accelerate the process. And I keep saying that because like we're really sleeping on the fact that we're on the verge of really unrepairable climate change that could affect like the future of like many. And it's maybe we won't be living enough to witness it. I dream with turning into data and keep living in another in a BCI mechanism and computer interface. We are not quite there yet, and we're not sure if we're going to be able to live as robots or computers. So
Yeah.
while we are in flesh, I think we need to care about the things, of course.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Can I? Or go ahead, Alexa. Go ahead. I'll add after this. Go ahead.
Oh, what's up?
Alexa, you gonna go? Yeah. Go.
Okay. I think that it's important for governments to come together and have a consensus here because, if one government leader is able to influence others, then we can have a more global and broad impact, especially from, leaders who might not be interested in being held accountable for the environmental impact that their country is having. And I also think it's important for governments to take a lead here because they create accountability for not only individuals but for businesses who have a tendency to, either play into the trend of sustainability and not actually follow through, or, basically just not be accountable for their actions. And so I think that accountability is really important there. But I think that, there are so many individuals who feel really inspired and they want to create a difference. They want to be a part of the change in addressing climate change. But it can be challenging. It can be disheartening to feel like you're 1 in a billion people or 1 in 7 billion people who's trying to make a difference. And so I think that's why it's important. Obviously, Indigenous knowledge and knowledge from these communities on how we can effectively create programs to address the many different aspects of climate change in those communities is important. So that information is important, but it's going to take a lot of resources to effectively address this, which is where I think coming from the top is really important.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a very, very important perspective to be reminded of the necessity almost to feel that change from the top down. You gonna say something, Mickey, as well?
What I wanted to add to what all of you have been saying is that hearing about how the crypto industry, let's call it, is really disruptive in the sense that it is an alternative system to the current system. So that's already the fact that a new system is being created is incredible. It's incredible to be living at this moment in time in which this is being developed. And now the creator economy is gaining so much power in the sense that now all this let's say liquidity is going towards artists and creators, and now that's why this moment in which it has so much power, it's so important for us to communicate and educate and talk about how the creator economy can support the giving economy and how both of these economies can complement each other and literally build for the future. And I think that the wonderful thing of what we're doing right now is also providing choices. We've taught many times, when you don't know what to do, how to do it better, you just keep on doing what you know. If you have the choice, you're going to go for the right choice, because that's exactly what we're here for, to give people the choice. And that's why I think, and I value so much both the work of organizations and also the work of creators, because there's a time to partner up, to collaborate, be friends, and be like, okay, these two powerful economies can merge and create a new system as well through crypto, which is incredible. So I think it's a really inspiring time to be alive. Propose to, if you're a creator, to be friends with organizations, if you're organizations, to be friends with creators, and to find the right tools to provide choices. And I mean, if this goes well and it goes mainstream, which is what it should be, because it should be really cool to collect art and to give back. we make that cool, we're on the other side. That's what I wanted to say.
What a speech, Mickey, as usual. I love that. I know we're a little over time now. I just wanted to say thank you all so much for joining us today. This has been an amazing, amazing talk. What I invite you to do, obviously, today we've been talking about the fears and you know our distress at potentially a future that's disappearing. What I would love for you to do is to jump into the event chat and share any resources, any guidance that you have, especially those of you who are in the climate change space. If you have any resources as to what we can be doing on a daily basis to sort of help this, ways in which we can support your organisation, that's what that's for. Jump in there and that's be amazing. I just want to thanks again and really appreciate you all joining today and the amazing, amazing contributions you've made. Really appreciate it. Have a pleasant.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. See you soon.